James Comey is set to testify today behind closed doors.
How is it that Mr. Comey presided over one of the most inept FBI organizations in the history of the FBI?
President Trump is expected to announce Nikki Haley's replacement at any moment.
Heather Nauert is set to become the highest-profile Trump nominee to face a Senate confirmation hearing since Brett Kavanaugh.
The debate surrounding birthright citizenship reigniting.
19-year-old Honduran Mariuri Hernandez crossed over the border illegally and the next day gave birth.
Firefighters standing on their truck to salute the president, and these kids spotted with a sign saying, look at that, thank you 41.
Silent night, no longer. A police officer unveiling his hidden talent and bringing down the house.
Make you glad you can.
From the mezzanine level, it's Geraldo.
Good morning. Good morning. Delightful to see you.
Great to see you.
Thank you.
All right,
that's
that hurts my feelings. Hey, the president has been up and he's tweeting this morning. There are big announcements coming down. We're going to hear more about Manafort today. We're probably going to hear what Michael Cohen gave the feds as well. And this is one of the president's many tweets this morning.
It says, will Robert Mueller's big-time conflicts of interest be listed at the top of his Republicans-only report? Will Andrew Wiseman's horrible and vicious prosecutorial past be listed in the report? He wrongly destroyed people's lives, took down great companies, only to be overturned 9-0 in the United States Supreme Court. Doing the same thing to people now, will all of the substantial and many contributions made by the 17 angry Democrats to the campaign of crooked Hillary be listed in top of report?
A couple of kind of a best of rant.
Really, it sounds rantish, but I understand his frustration. I mean, he's doing so well objectively in terms of trade, in terms of the economy, in terms of how America is faring, that he's very frustrated that he has this cancer. This, the special prosecutor Mueller has been on his case from the very beginning, almost since May of 2017. This week, we'll now, as Steve, as you referenced, we'll see the sentencing memo for Paul Manafort. How exactly did Paul Manafort lie and break his agreement with the special counsel? We'll also see Michael Cohen's sentencing report. What did the snitch exactly tell? How much hot water will he has created for the president? So this is a big week, and this is the day. It has to be by federal court order by 5 o'clock today. We must see those sentencing memos. So we should get some clarity as what the special counsel has against the president.
I just hope Trey Gowdy brings his A game, because he has a lot of questions. He has been read in. He's in 2 separate committees, Intel and Judiciary, and he has the details. So behind closed doors, he could do follow-up questions. We could get to this. The other thing about the president...
Wait, one thing about Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy is retiring, so he's only got 3 weeks, 4 weeks at most to do whatever he's going to do. You've got the holidays in between. What's he going to do in this very, very short amount of time? I think this is his last hurrah.
Right, but he can pin him to the ground. If he's a good prosecutor with a series of follow-up questions, he could finally try to get answers.
Comey is way too slick for that, in my opinion. He'll be very combative.
He has no answer for everything.
He's got an answer for everything. He's very schooled. Remember, he did his book tour. So he's been asked every question.
But stuff came out after the book. A lot of this stuff came out after his book.
Give me one example that you think Comey cannot answer.
How about this? Either he's lying or Strzok is lying about Hillary Clinton's emails when he was informed that they were on Anthony Weiner's laptop. Why you said what you were going to say. Strzok says that you told him 3 weeks ago, and then you said you didn't find out until 2 days before.
Congressman, my best recollection is that I didn't see it until...
So you calling Peter Strzok a liar?
I don't think that James Comey will hesitate to call Peter Strzok a liar, call anyone a liar who disagrees with him.
Okay. What about preferential treatment to the Hillary Clinton staffers like Cheryl Mills?
Excuse me. We all know about that, though. Ainsley, we all know that Hillary was given a pass even before she was interviewed. We know that.
But
I think that he's paid the political consequences.
That?
But why? Because he'll make up some reason. Why? Because it did not appear to me that there was a significant case. Did not appear to me that there was substantial evidence. He can, when you're playing out the clock, it's very easy for an articulate experienced hand
It's a
to just push it away, push it away.
What's the
Don't
insurance
expect
plan,
him to
James
say,
Comey?
okay, I confess.
What's the insurance plan? Is you the worst CIA director ever, and there was an insurance plan plotting and planning underneath you, or you are leading the charge? You're the conductor of the insurance plan.
Congressman, I must tell you again, as I have testified previously, as I wrote in my book, I made the best decision based on the evidence I had at the time. He's too squirmy for you to nail Comey. Don't expect anything.
And you know what, Geraldo, that's one of the reasons I think Jim Jordan was on this program earlier this week, and he said, we asked him a little bit about James Comey coming in today, and he said, you know, he's going to come in, but I would rather see Rod Rosenstein, because Rod Rosenstein is the guy who knows all the secrets. And remember, it was coming up on a month now ago, he was supposed to go up in front of at least 2 members of Congress. It was going to be kind of off the record. He was going to answer some questions. He balked at that. They still haven't heard from him because he's the guy who knows how it all works.
If I was in charge of the president's legal strategy right now, what I would be focused on are none of the minutiae, none of these side players. What I would be focused on is the special counsel himself. Put up or shut up.
Which
this
has been tweeting today.
Exactly. This has been 2 years. Do you have any evidence that I colluded with the Russians or not? Isn't it time for the American people finally to see what was the reason for this disruption that has really preoccupied our republic now?
Geraldo, what do they
the
do
entire
with
Trump
the sentencing documents? We already saw that with Michael Flynn earlier this week, I guess, or the end of last week. What do they do with those sentencing documents?
Well, it'll say that Michael Cohen was extremely cooperative, that he rolled over, that he gave us even more information that we need. So we recommend no jail time for Michael Cohen. I believe that Paul Manafort will get slammed again,
makes the
but he's
ultimate
already
decision?
a convicted felon.
A judge will make the ultimate decision?
Oh, no, you mean in terms of
sentence?
Well, a judge will make the decision strongly influenced by the recommendations of the special counsel. Right. If the special counsel says, Brian cooperated, he told us everything, we have no reason to believe he's withholding any, we ask you not to sentence him to prison. Judge will have to say, unless the judge is a real rebel, which is very, very rare, I think that Cohen gets a pass. He has succeeded in ratting out his boss in a way that I think violated the lawyer-client privilege in a grotesque way.
He was out to save his skin.
He not only, but to save his skin and be his lawyer at the same time is very, very, very.
He was taping him before he was indicted.
And that's what I worry about. Did anyone tape the president? Did anyone wear a wire? For these 2 years, and during the campaign also, once Michael Flynn, for instance, a heroic military figure before he became national security analyst, did he wear a wire after he was nabbed, before the president knew that he was in trouble? Did he have candid conversations with his boss? And is it not? I mean, I think that it could represent a peril. And I also don't know what Michael Cohen has turned over to the Southern District of New York about Trump's business deals.
Right, and the payoffs. We're going to find out more by 5 o'clock. You'll see it all live here on the Fox News channel. In the meantime, Geraldo, I'm sure you've seen it. You've commented on it on television. There is a crisis at the southern border, according to the White House. And if you look at the number of people who have been arrested year over year in November, look at that. Back in 2017, almost 30,000. And look at November 2018, almost 52,000. That is close to an 80% spike in people trying to get here illegally.
Very easy explanation. Number one, I think there is real fear south of the border that the wall will finally be constructed. So they want to scramble over before it's too late. The second thing is the economic disparity between Central America and the United States has grown in the last year. The United States economy continues to thrive. The Central American economy in disarray, the government's dysfunctional, basically failed states in Honduras, for example, in El Salvador. So you have people who are trying to do their best to feed their families. They are desperate to get over. That's what caused the migrant caravan. It wasn't any insidious conspiracy. It was people trying to feed their families. They're desperate. They are economic refugees. They don't qualify for asylum. The vast majority of them, upon getting a hearing, will be rejected. But there is a desperation that we have to recognize. I think this is the time, right now, where Congress must get together. Let President Trump have his wall. He has earned it. Elections have consequences. that wall should be built. At the same time, the president can offer the Democrats amnesty for the dreamers.
Nancy
the youngsters,
Pelosi says she doesn't care.
They don't care anymore.
I think they must care, and I think the president should harp on that. I am offering freedom and citizenship for 1 million odd youngsters brought here through no fault of their own.
Nancy Pelosi just rejected
she
it.
said
well,
no.
It's on tape.
She has changed her mind several times, as Chuck Schumer has changed his mind. This was a deal that they agreed to tacitly last year. Now they're disagreeing because they're sticking it to the president.
Because the courts have upended the president's push to kick out DACA kids.
Well, although that may be part of the reason she feels empowered, remember that decision at the lower court now gets bumped up, and I think the president will enjoy the same success he has up until now on these other migrant-related issues in the Supreme Court of the United States.
The meter is running. They've got to do something.
The meter is running because you got 3 weeks to do it all.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You get a piece of that 3 milk cake.
I like it. I like the looks of it.
All right. In the meantime, it's 8:11 here in New York City, and right behind you, Carly has a story about MS-13.
That's right. Good morning to you all. An MS-13 gang member in the U.S. illegally will spend 30 years behind bars for a brutal machete murder. Walter Antonio Argueta Amaya and 3 other gang members hacked a man nearly 150 times in Virginia last summer. Now, they were angry at the victim for saying their gang doesn't make the rules in America. Amaya, who's from El Salvador, will be deported after he's released from prison. The violent protests in France have created a monster. That's the word from the French Prime Minister as the country braces for more riots this weekend. France deploying nearly 90,000 police officers across the country and closing major tourist sites like the Eiffel Tower. Protesters started demonstrating weeks ago against a proposed tax hike. That plan has been scrapped, but rioters now have more demands. And have you ever gotten a CVS pharmacy receipt that is really long? Well, this guy did, and check out what he did with it. Andrew Nolan using the receipt and coupon to fix a broken blind. To his surprise, it fit perfectly, and that picture has gone viral online. From receipt to home decor.
It's because we can all relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the longest receipts you've ever seen in your life. And
well, there's a lot of stuff on it.
Right, they're great, because sometimes you'll get the $5 coupon.
That's right. You're like, ooh, a free lean cuisine. That's just what I wanted.
Or pizza rolls.
That's right.
Thank you, Carly. All right, meanwhile, we got a Fox News alert at 8:12 New York time. President Trump is expected to tweet his pick to replace the United Nations Ambassador Nikki Haley any moment now. We are live at the White House with reaction.
Plus, Pete Hegseth here with a preview of his interview with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Stuart Varney on the November jobs report. That is coming up as the job report is about to be released.
We're back with a Fox News alert. We are expecting at any moment President Trump is expected to announce via Twitter Nikki Haley's replacement as ambassador to the United Nations from the United States.
He's also close to filling an opening at the Justice Department to replace Jeff Sessions, we're being told.
All right, a lot going on and some other rumors about other rotations. Peter Doocy is live at the White House with who's under consideration and who might be on their way out. Peter.
Brian, Heather Nauert is now set to become the highest profile Trump nominee to face a Senate confirmation hearing since Brett Kavanaugh. The White House officials are telling us right now to be on the lookout any minute for a tweet with official word about promoting the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's spokeswoman. A big question now becomes, if confirmed, would Nauert serve as a cabinet-level official like outgoing Ambassador Nikki Haley did? The word inside the White House from sources I've spoken to is that officials don't want this to be a cabinet-level position anymore so that they can avoid recreating some of the mistakes that were perceived to have happened during the era of Haley, who sometimes broke with her boss, President Trump. The president also has a vacancy at the Justice Department left by Jeff Sessions and is apparently looking to try to install former President George H.W. Bush's Attorney General, William Barr. This is not somebody that the president knows, but it is somebody who seems to sympathize with the president's problems with the FBI director that he fired. Barr has said in recent interviews he likes James Comey, but that the president should get his choice of FBI director. And both of these moves represent a slow but steady shakeup of the Trump White House staff that was first assembled exactly 2 years ago during the transition at Mar-a-Lago and at Trump Tower. Back to you in New York.
Where it happened. All right, Peter, North Lawn of the White House, thank you very much.
It's pretty amazing. Heather Nauert rocketing up the State Department ladder. We watched her as a spokesperson for the last 2 years, handling every question through 2 secretaries of states. She has an Ivy League education at ABC, of course, was here for a while. And what she has done is probably the hardest thing. Behind closed doors, when the cameras are gone, she's impressed the president, because she's in on these policy meetings. I think Mike Pompeo has given her more and more responsibility, so they really get the sense on her depth of knowledge and her contacts. So this is a big thing.
Well, she's a seasoned reporter. She's very curious, and she's figured out how everything is working around the country and around the world, and that obviously is what has appealed to the White House.
Coming from Columbia doesn't hurt either.
Right, her Ivy League
the university.
Yeah. We are awaiting that announcement, and also the announcement about the AG, and we will, of course, let you know as soon as we hear something.
All right. Meanwhile, Brian.
Yeah, get this. A major shakeup at the Oscars. If you went to bed and thought Kevin Hart was hosting and the life was good, I have bad news for you. He's not. He's out because of something he's done years ago. We are talking about his resignation because he doesn't want to apologize. The reaction out of Hollywood ahead.
And Pete Hegseth sitting down one-on-one with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He is already back here in the States. He just left Israel and came straight to the set. Hey, congratulations. Here's some quick headlines for you. Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Michael Avenatti, has a new client. America! Avenatti joining the legal team for Patricia Okumo. She was arrested for climbing the Statue of Liberty to protest immigration policies. Avenatti says they both advocate against family separations. And Kevin Hart's gig as Oscar host is over now, 2 days after he took the job. The comedian bowing out overnight, I should say, after controversial tweets about gay people surfaced.
From what, 5 years ago?
Hart says the Academy gave him an option to apologize or step down. He decided to apologize, but also step down. This was his tweet. I am sorry that I hurt people. I am evolving and want to continue to do so. My goal is to bring people together, not tear us apart.
All right. Meanwhile, this week marked the 1-year anniversary of President Trump recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital city and moving the U.S. embassy there, as promised for decades by other presidents.
All right, Fox and Friends weekend co-host Pete Hegseth just sat down with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to talk about this and much more.
That's right. Pete joins us now with a sneak peek. He's back.
Yes, back. In fact, last night I was at the Western Wall with lighting of the menorah for the 5th day of Hanukkah with the Prime Minister, Bibi Netanyahu, and our U.S. Ambassador, David Friedman. It's the first time the menorah has ever been lit at the Western Wall with a U.S. official. I mean, more symbolism a year later of how closely these two countries are linked. And that's what I asked Bibi Netanyahu about in a portion of the interview. 1 year later, has it changed the U.S.-American relationship? Listen. How much does America mean to Israel, and how much has the last year meant after President Trump's decision?
Our relations with the United States are based on a deeper thing, the deepest of bonds. It's the bond of values, of a common heritage, of a belief in a common destiny, of freedom and democracy and truth. And this has been the basis of America's support for Israel from day one when President Truman recognized Israel. Yes. That was a historic decision. And President Trump's proclamation is a historic decision which carried the relationship to even higher ground. Israel's relations with the United States have never been stronger.
He says the relationships have never been stronger. You see that through the relationship on the ground with the U.S. ambassador and when President Trump went and visited with Bibi Netanyahu. But like our president, there are investigations going on over there.
We asked you about that yesterday.
You asked me about it yesterday, and so I felt the obligation to ask Bibi Netanyahu about that as well, about the fact that there are investigations on him and why he fights. Listen. If you go to the States today, you read headlines about a president under investigation. You come here, I see headlines of a president under investigation. How are you taking on the flood of that?
Well, look, I won't tell you it's the nicest thing in the world, but I'm confident that the truth will out. And when the truth, I'm confident about the truth you see, historical truth and present day truth. The truth will out. The good guys win.
Why do you fight the way that you do?
Because I think that my generation has a special mission. It's different from my father's generation. They re-established what was lost. And my generation's mission is to protect what was returned, to have the country grow, thrive, be strong, and never to face the fear of destruction again.
This is certainly a man on a mission, and if you ask him, his supporters, they say his critics in the media, they can't beat him at the ballot box, so they're trying to beat him with trumped up witch hunt-like investigations based on cigar and champagne and old relationships from the past that they're now bringing up because he is so popular, now 10 years as the prime minister. But that's just a portion of our interview. We're going to, tomorrow on Fox & Friends Weekend, I asked him about our trip we took together up to the northern portion of Israel to see new terror caves from Hezbollah. We rode in his Israeli Defense Force helicopter with his security detail. He has great security detail, by the way.
He does.
And we were able to interview him about that as well as go see some of the briefings up there.
Some of this for Fox Nation?
And then some of this on Fox Nation, too. Actually, the largest part of that interview, about 12 minutes plus of it, was about Jerusalem and the battle for Jerusalem, that historic city. You know, Jews, Christians, Muslims all see it as a center place of their faith. Well, there's a lot of politics and a lot of excavation and a lot of finger pointing and a lot of stress still in those locations, holy sites. For Fox Nation, we're going to have an in-depth documentary.
What was it like for you to go to the Holy Land?
Well, it's amazing. It's my 4th time there. I've spent a lot of time in Jerusalem. I love the city and the relationship we have to the Jewish people. And I think we're going to get a chance to tell a deeper story about why it's still so relevant today on Fox Nation. So get it, Fox Nation.
And you'll be anchoring this weekend? We'll see more of it tomorrow?
I'll be here with Ed. I'm stuck with him for 8 hours.
Yeah. And then you go see him in the green room.
Yeah, I'll go see him right now.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right, straight ahead on this Friday, we're just a couple of hours away from James Comey's testimony behind closed doors on Capitol Hill, and new sentencing memos from Robert Mueller on Michael Cohen and Paul Manafort. Law professor Jonathan Turley is going to explain it in layman's terms for all of us coming up very shortly.
Plus, the November jobs report has just been released, and Stuart Varney has it in his hand. He moves his eyebrows because he knows
it comes out in 1 minute, Brian. 155,000 jobs were added last month. That is less than was expected.
All right, the unemployment rate is 3.7%. That stays the same. That's the same from October. But we thought it was going to be around 200,000. Let's bring in Stuart Varney. Stuart, your first blush, first look.
Look, I got to say it's disappointing. 155,000 jobs is good, but it's nowhere near what it should be, bearing in mind the economy's growth rate. I was expecting a north of 200,000 new jobs. So to come in at 155 is not what we were looking for. It's not that strong. Disappointing.
We have heard a number of times that employers are looking really hard to find people to fill the jobs. Could it possibly be the labor market is shrunk so much it's hard to find the people?
What it seems to be what's happening is, I've got to dig deeper into the report. It could be that that wages have not risen fast enough to bring people out of, say, retirement or off the couch or whatever it is, bring them back into the labor force. I've not seen the full numbers yet, but that could be one of the reasons
what
here.
What can we expect today after seeing the arrest of the Huawei executive?
Oh, that's a story and a half.
That
was a bombshell. Now, this executive with Huawei, which is China's biggest telecommunications company, it's an absolute giant. And she is the daughter of the founder. It's like arresting the son of Steve Jobs or something. I mean, it's that big a deal. When that news broke, it was assumed that President Trump knew about the arrest as he was going into dinner with Xi Jinping. In other words, he was being very provocative. It turns out he did not know about this arrest. Peter Navarro told Fox Business yesterday, no, we did not know about this arrest going into the dinner, and therefore it's a separate event. It's separated out. There's the trade friction with China, and then there's the legalistic arrest of this Huawei executive.
Do they see it separate, or do they see it blended?
China sees it as connected. That's the point here. They see this as intimately connected. You've arrested our person because you want to put pressure on us over trade. We don't see it that way. They do see it that way.
She was arrested in Canada, though.
She was.
So
And she'll appear
why
in
are
court in Canada today.
So why are they blaming America?
Because she was arrested at the request of American authorities. We asked them to.
Regarding China, the President of the United States tweeted out a couple of minutes ago, China talks are going very well, exclamation.
Yeah, and he says that publicly very frequently. And if you get into the detail of what was actually said at that dinner, Xi Jinping, China's leader, went through, I'm told, 140 different items of where they're actually specifically cooperating and talking. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
They are talking specifics.
So buy the natural gas, buy the soybeans. That's going to help the farmers immediately.
Yes, it is.
Right.
It is.
Stuart, we'll be watching you in 25 minutes over on the Business Channel.
I'm glad to hear it. Thank you very much.
For 3 hours.
All right.
Thanks, Stuart. A whirlwind week in Robert Mueller's Russia probe happening today fired FBI Director James Comey to testify before House Republicans. This as Senate's files are expected at any moment for Paul Manafort and for Michael Cohen.
All right, I want to get a reaction from Jonathan Turley and also find out about this new AG nominee. He's a Fox News contributor now, constitutional law professor at George Washington University. All right, the president's going to, excuse me, right now we understand that James Comey today is going to be going behind closed doors. What progress can they make, Jonathan? What questions would you ask?
Well, quite frankly, even before the Russian investigation, I wrote that I was astonished at how the FBI treated some of the Clinton staff who were accused of making false statements. They were not cooperative. They
got off easy?
They forced all types of very lenient agreements that, as a criminal defense attorney, I had not seen previously. He's likely to be pressured on that point. But the one that I would ask and drill down on is his leaking of those memos after he left the FBI. He was tasked with finding leakers, and the minute it became something to his advantage, he became a leaker. And there's still a lot that is not known as to how he carried that out, whether he understood that those were FBI memos, something the agency has repeatedly said.
Jonathan, the other thing is the person he leaked the memo to wasn't just a New York Times columnist, it was his friend who also had a role with the FBI, we found out later.
That's right.
All right, Jonathan, we're also hearing today the prosecutors are going to finalize those sentencing documents for Manafort, for Paul Manafort, and for Michael Cohen. What are your predictions?
Well, this, of course, is the big reveal that people have been waiting for. We only learn about the direction of this investigation through speaking indictments or filings in court. So the question is, where did the break occur with Paul Manafort? Mueller's had problems with other witnesses, including most recently Corsi, but also before that Papadopoulos. And these are people that clearly did not give him what he wanted. The question is whether he's going to give us a greater idea of what he did ask from Manafort and what direction those questions were going in.
And regarding the fact that his former personal attorney, Michael Cohen, is going in his sentencing guideline memo that's going to come out later today, it's essentially going to say what he gave up on his client, right?
That's right. And look, Cohen gets credit for cooperating, but I wrote a column recently that his request for leniency borders on lunacy. I mean, Cohen is an officer of the court who spent a considerable effort violating the law, violating his oath as a lawyer. Judges don't usually look kindly upon that.
Yeah, he did have his 83-year-old father, a Holocaust survivor, say, he's my oxygen, please let him go because I'll lose my oxygen if he goes to jail. Do things like that matter?
Well, I think it's going to matter less to this federal judge as opposed to the scope of the alleged illegality. Now, here he's talking about a false statement, but that false statement was to Congress, and it was a premeditated act by an officer of the court. That's going to be the focus of this judge.
All right, Jonathan Turley joining us from our nation's capital. Keep your seatbelt on, John. It's going to be busy today.
You bet.
All right.
Thank you. All right, let's hand it over to Carly, who has some headlines for us. Hey, Carly.
That's right. Hey, good morning, guys. And take a look at this. Teenagers ransack a home with a 9-year-old boy asleep on the couch. The terrifying moments caught on surveillance video in Las Vegas. The boy did not wake up and was not hurt. Those crooks got away with a car and some other valuables. They are still on the run. A federal judge orders more fact-finding in the Clinton email investigation. The Justice and State Departments must hand over information to help determine whether Clinton deliberately tried to evade public record laws by using a private email server while Secretary of State. The order comes in response to a Freedom of Information Act request filed by the conservative group Judicial Watch. Clinton has said she used a personal server for convenience. And a traffic stop turns into a circus. Florida troopers trying to wrangle a lemur on the loose. The animal popping up to a horse trailer after they pulled over a drunk driver. It took them 15 minutes to catch the lemur named Miko. The driver also had a tortoise, a goat, a parrot, and a wallaby, all in that one trailer. A lot to unpack in that story.
What is it?
And he was drunk.
A traveling zoo?
Yes.
A drunk traveling zoo.
A drunk traveling zoo. Those are your headlines.
All right, Carly, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Meanwhile, it's a story renewing the debate on birthright citizenship. A mother illegally entered the United States and then had a baby on American soil. Our next guest is the daughter of political refugees and says we need to fix a broken system now.
And the circus is in town, but you haven't seen anything like this. It's a holiday performance you cannot miss. Live on the Square.
A wonderful Christmas time.
Within 24 hours of this caravan family illegally scaling the border wall, a 19-year-old Honduran mother gave birth on U.S. soil, renewing national debate over birthright citizenship. Our next guest is the daughter of political refugees, her family escaping communist Cuba before she was born. Maria Elvira Salazar is a former Florida Republican House candidate. She's been on our show when she was running, and she joins us now. Elvira, thank you for being with us.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank
What
you
are
for
your
the
thoughts about
invitation.
this?
Well, it's a very hard topic, but unfortunately, every time the president or the White House is trying to change the immigration abuses, he's been branded as a racist. And that is not true, because the previous administrations tried to do the same thing the president is trying to do. Bring order to the immigration system. Review not only the birthright citizenship, first clause of the 14th Amendment, but also review the 1965 family reunification laws. And Clinton tried to do it, and they didn't dare. Obama tried to do it, and they were afraid of the liberal media and being branded racist or the international condemnation. But at some point, an administration in this country needs to say, stop. Let's review what's happening, and let's protect the system and protect and not allow for the Constitution to be abused, which is what's happening right now, or the system being abused.
What is your story? Tell us about your parents.
Well, you see, my parents were they were benefited by the generous immigration laws that this country has had for 50 years. And we were able to come in legally because they were coming from communist Cuba. And not only my parents, but 50 million people or immigrants have been able to come in the last 50 years because of the family reunification law. And we are very grateful, but at the same time, we need to do it in a legal way, in an orderly fashion, which is not what's happening right now.
I keep hearing you say legal and law. Yes, it's hard to see these images of moms wanting to give their children a better life. Who wouldn't want that? America's a wonderful country. Our economy's great.
Absolutely.
But there are laws.
There are laws, and those laws are not working well. And that's why we need to review them. What do I mean? I'm not saying that if you have a legal and a legitimate claim to ask for asylum, we are the most generous country in the world, and I just said it, and the figures show it. But at the same time, not everybody that wants to come for economic reasons can come in. And those images, the caravan images that you're seeing right now, I don't think they're very pretty for the Hispanic community. We're embarrassed. We're ashamed because that is not who we are. We are the largest minority in the country. We're law-abiding, God-fearing. We want to pay taxes. We're self-reliant. We just want an opportunity in a legal way. How many people are waiting outside of the United States to come in? Millions. So it's very hard. It's very difficult, but somebody had to come, an administration had to come and say, okay, let's review, let's fix it.
It has to be frustrating for the people that are doing it the right way, that are on the list, that are waiting their turn.
very frustrating. And they say, hey, it's my turn. I need to be coming in. But then at the same time, you see, which is while I was running for Congress, I kept on saying to the House of Representative leadership that what the president needs to do is to nip it at the bud, need to go to the root of the problem so we will not have any more caravans. Because this is the first of many. Because, you know, hey, if you live across the street and my house is the prettiest one, I want to go to the pretty house.
More and more of them.
And
more caravans.
And what do we need to do? I've been saying it. Let's go to Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. Those countries are exporting the overwhelming majority of the people we're looking at the caravan. And let's say, hey, how can we help you keep your boys home? Like Ronald Reagan did it. You see, I was a Central American bureau chief. I covered the war, and I lived in El Salvador during the worst years when the Civil War was going on, rowdy.
We're giving them money, so I'd love to see how they're spending that money to make their governments better.
We need to earmark it and say, okay, this money is for this. Okay. The American companies need to be welcomed. That money should be spent in a wise way, and then I think we can dwindle what's happening.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Coming up next, a holiday show unlike any other. It is a can't miss performance that is live right there on the Fox Square. It's coming up next. But first, let's check in with Bill Hemmer to find out. I know, isn't that cool? Can you do that, Bill?
No, not a chance. Morning to you. Have a great weekend, okay, Ainsley? This day holds a lot of intrigue. What does Mueller know? What does he have? We expect to get major clues today, so stand by on all that. Mueller and Manafort and Comey and Flynn. Also in 1 hour, James Comey sits down with House members. What comes of that? We got breaking news on the economy. How does the weekend with your wallet? Markets open up in 40 minutes. Alan Dershowitz, Newt Gingrich, come join Sandra and me in 10 minutes. It's Friday, folks. See you then.
Well, Cirque Musica is an all-new concert experience for the entire family, combining spectacular stunts with holiday cheer and a live show called Wonderland.
And here once again this year with the preview is the creator and producer Stephen Cook, along with some of the talented performers. Stephen, what is it about this particular show that has people all across the country ready to see the new one?
Well, every year with Cirque Musica, we try to create something new and different for the audience. And so this year, the show Wonderland is about a girl named Caroline who gets sort of lost in a book and goes back to her childhood and goes into this whole new world with characters doing crazy different, tricks and performances, and so that's what it is.
So the kids would love it. It's a family experience.
It's a great family show, and it's really, for us, it's about bringing families together for the holidays.
That's right.
And that's what we do.
Are you ready to see Wonderland? Take a look, folks. Here it is.
There is a world for you and me. It's an astounding place to see, where your wishes all come true. As you search inside your heart, you can hear the pounding start as it's calling out to you. See